All right, so I'm going to get just going to get things underway here. Thanks for joining us tonight. Welcome to the Connecticut Chamber of Commerce, the Connecticut Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. So our first live stream, Growing Connecticut's Future, an overview of Connecticut's adult use cannabis market. My name's Adam Wood, and along with co-founders DEBORAH CAVINESS and Andrew Glissman, who are on the screen now, we formed this new chamber to serve as a resource for all those who want to get started and participate in this exciting new segment of our economy. Hundreds of businesses will emerge in our state legal cannabis industry, from cultivators, dispensaries, manufacturing, delivery, distribution, testing, insurance, packaging, and other enterprises. There's enormous opportunity, and things are beginning to move really quickly. Throughout the year, we're going to be hosting events, training sessions, networking opportunities, sharing news and information, and conducting education to help our members compete and to become a part of this industry. As the industry grows, we hope to be a voice for participants and consumers in Hartford and Washington to promote a safe, fair, and equitable cannabis industry in Connecticut. We hope that you'll check out our website, which is located at ctcannabischamber.org. Our Facebook page, and please email us if you're interested in joining at info@cannabischamber.org. I just want to take a moment here at the outset to take a brief moment to introduce my fellow co-founders and partners in crime. Again, my name's Adam Wood. For the last couple of years, I led the successful advocacy effort to legalize cannabis in Connecticut on behalf of the Marijuana Policy Project, working with an amazing and diverse group of supporters from all across the state of Connecticut. The legislation that Connecticut passed is considered a national model for social equity provisions. I've served in leadership roles in governments in Connecticut and New York State, and as a member of Governor Lamont's transition team. My co-founder, DEBORAH CAVINESS, is a co-founder of the Connecticut Black Chamber of Commerce, in addition to serving as president of the Greater Bridgeport Opportunities Industrial Center. She participated in the development of cannabis regulatory strategy while serving on the governor's Cannabis Social Equity Advisory Committee. That committee helped set the legislative framework for the social equity program that's now in place, including cannabis business licensing and revenue allocation for disproportionately impacted communities. My other co-founder, Dan Glissman, is a partner at MacDermid, Reynolds, and Glissman. He's focused much of his law practice on formation, licensing, and operation of both medical and adult use cannabis establishments. He draws on a deep knowledge of practical experience in all aspects of the cannabis industry, including corporate structuring and entity formation, commercial contract review, mergers and acquisitions, real estate leases and purchases, regulatory compliance, and state and local licensing. And I also want to introduce Zach Van LULING, who's our Director of Advocacy, who brings decades of experience organizing on environmental issues, grassroots issues, and even President Obama's campaign in Florida. So thanks to the team. With that, I just, again, want to welcome everyone and thank all of you for joining us today, and kick it over to my partner, DEBORAH CAVINESS, who's going to thank our introduce our wonderful panelists who we're so thankful have joined us here tonight. And again, remind you that we're here to be a resource, and we really look forward to working with you over the coming year. And thank you for joining. DEBORAH, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. And I'd like to start by thanking Governor Lamont and the state legislators for championing Senate Bill 1201 and legalizing marijuana in the state of Connecticut, which in my personal opinion was long overdue. Tonight, we will have an open and candid conversation on what legalizing marijuana in the state of Connecticut means, the process to get in the game, and what opportunities and resources are available. Joining us here tonight is ANDRÉA Comer, Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Consumer Protection. She previously served as the Chief External Affairs Officer for the Connecticut Paid Leave Authority, where she led the agency's outreach and engagement efforts. ANDRÉA has worked in communications, strategic planning, and development efforts for government and nonprofit entities. Thank you so much for joining us, Commissioner. Attorney Daniel Glissman has focused much of his law practice on the formation, licensing, and operation of both medical and adult use cannabis establishments, including the first medical dispensary in the city of Boston and the first adult use retailer in the Commonwealth. Thank you. Jenny Ray Clay is the interim executive director of the Social Equity Council. She is a seasoned professional with more than 35 years of experience in government, organizational management, education, and community engagement. The Social Equity Council is made up of 15 professionals and will play a major role in awarding cannabis licenses and how the estimated $40 million in new tax revenue will be spent in communities of color and those have been impacted by the war on drugs. Panelists, thank you so much for joining us tonight for this very special, informative webinar. And thank you so much, Zach, for organizing this important event. Okay, let's get started with ANDRÉA. Is there anything that you'd like to say before I start with the questions?
No, just thank you for providing the opportunity for us to talk more about the cannabis industry. And, I know there's tremendous interest and there is a significant amount in that 303-page bill. So we're happy to share the information we have. You're on mute, Deb.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
As of last week, the state began the application process and is now accepting applications for interested parties that are looking to get a license in the cannabis industry. Can you give us an overview of your role and the breakdown of the different type of licenses and what should we expect?
Certainly. So in terms of my role as Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Protection, most people know DCP is a regulating authority for a number of different industries and trades. My role specifically is twofold: to assist with that, but also to chair the Social Equity Council, which is a 15-member body designed to promote equity in the recreational cannabis industry. As you mentioned, the applications became available on February 3rd for a number of different license types. Those are the lottery applications for adult use cannabis retailers, the non-lottery applications for cultivators who want to obtain a cultivator license in a disproportionately impacted area. There are equity joint venture applications available, and that's a business entity that is at least 50% owned and controlled by a social equity applicant. There are non-lottery applications for conversion from a medical marijuana producer to an expanded producer, meaning they will produce both. And then non-lottery applications for conversion from medical marijuana dispensary to a hybrid retailer. So they would sell both of those.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Attorney Glissman, you led the efforts in Massachusetts. Can you just give us an overview of their process there and discuss a little bit about best practices that you think is something that we should be taking a look at as we are moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Deb. And thanks to everyone who's joined tonight, Jenny Ray and ANDRÉA. Again, thank you guys for offering your valuable time to join the Chamber's first meeting here. We're very excited. So as was mentioned before, I'm an attorney. I've been representing folks in the cannabis space for almost a decade now. I got my start in cannabis licensing and permitting the first medical marijuana dispensary in downtown Boston. And then that was when medical was first, sorry, please let me. Can everybody hear me okay? Deb, Jenny? Okay, sorry. And that was when medical was just legal in Massachusetts. And then they went on to legalize adult use. And I was fortunate enough to represent my client to be the first adult use retailer in Mass, which was also the first legal adult use cannabis sales east of the Mississippi. So that was a pretty fun milestone. And I represent, all types of cannabis entrepreneurs, every everyone from the small mom and pop business owner to the multi-state operators. And I have worked with some of these companies from the very beginning, starting up their business venture, which is where everyone is here in Connecticut right now, all the way through to, selling their business for millions of dollars down the line to another cannabis establishment, another operator who's consolidating. So, I've been around for the full life cycle of a lot of these businesses, and I've helped many of them navigate both the state and local licensing process. So I'm hoping to bring sort of that experience and that knowledge base to the chamber here, and just work with folks and work with our members on entering the cannabis space here in Connecticut. I'm actually a native of Connecticut. I grew up in Simsbury and recently moved back to Connecticut. In 2018, I joined my family firm here in Hartford, Connecticut, and very excited to, really be a part of the very beginning of adult use cannabis in Connecticut. As everyone knows on this call, cannabis is not necessarily new to Connecticut. We have a very robust medical program for medical producers, which are the growers, the cultivators, and 18 dispensaries, 17 of which are active right now, one of which is in the process of changing locations. So, cannabis isn't necessarily new to Connecticut, but certainly adult use cannabis is new, and it brings about a whole host of new issues and new topics and conversations. So, the process that I saw in Massachusetts is definitely a good indicator of what I think we'll see a lot of here in Connecticut. Connecticut is like we've said, a model for the nation in terms of their social equity program. I think that, having done cannabis projects, not just in Massachusetts, but all throughout New England and across the country, the 1-to-1 ratio, if you will, of equity to non-equity licenses at a state level is amazing. And I think that's really going to provide a lot of opportunity for folks to enter into this space. Massachusetts was a little bit of a different market in the sense that they had requirements to secure both property and some level of local approval prior to applying with the state. Connecticut has taken a different approach which I think is a more friendly approach to the smaller entrepreneur, where they're moving forward with the state license initially. So as folks may know, the first step in the process here in Connecticut is to file with the lottery or in the lottery, or if you're pursuing one of those license types outside of the lottery, is really to file with the state and get your business in order, your partnership in order, and get ready to make an application. I think that's going to be very helpful for folks because it allows them to, have something concrete from the state showing that they're ready and able to move and licensed to move forward. Whereas in Massachusetts, you had to spend a significant amount of capital to secure real estate, work with your local municipality, get your local approvals, and then start the sometimes lengthy process of state licensing. So I think, from a sort of where should you start perspective, certainly the first step here is to log on to the state's website, start perusing the, CT Cannabis website. There's a ton of information there that's accessible to everyone. You can watch, you can make your way to the Social Equity Council meetings, which are full of a ton of good information. You can also, read up on all the different license types. There are 9 new license types available for the adult use marketplace. And that's also where you're going to find the information on the lottery timeline, when it opens, when you have to file by, and get some information on frequently asked questions, and sort of where do I go from here. So that's really the best starting point, is to just dig into the state's website and start to look around at everything. As Commissioner Comer mentioned, the bill itself is lengthy and robust, and it can be a little bit arduous to get through, but I think the state's done a really fantastic job of digesting that and really breaking it out into easy to manage components. So you can really get on the website, and if you want to do a retailer license, you can dig in, you can read the definition about a retailer and sort of consider, okay, what's my core goal here? What's my business purpose? What do I want to do to get started in the cannabis industry? And obviously this is really heavily geared towards those that want to be operators, but there's a significant amount of opportunity in cannabis outside of those that are licensed in the cannabis industry. There's many ancillary businesses that support cannabis and are necessary for establishing a cannabis business. Everything from, your grassroots organization that's going to help build community support for a proposed project, to your architects and engineers and accountants and attorneys and other professionals that support the space. So it's not just licensing, getting a permit and hoping to win the lottery, if you will, and getting open. I think there's plenty of opportunity for folks who, are interested in the cannabis space to think outside the box, come up with some neat solution to a problem that, that the cannabis entrepreneurs may face, and find a way to really get into the industry there. And I think that's something that, we've seen a lot of in Massachusetts and elsewhere, is really people being innovative and getting involved, not on the sidelines per se, but getting involved in the cannabis industry without being what we refer to as the plant touching business. So, that's really a great opportunity. And I think once you've decided what your track is, what you're most interested in getting into cannabis, that's where you're really going to that's going to drive your process. If you're a prospective licensee, like we talked about, your first step's going to be digging into the state's informational materials and trying to identify your path forward at the state level. Then it's going to be focusing on finding your partners. Who do you want to do business with? Who do you want to work with here? Who's going to help you? How are you going to build your team, right? You're going to need to find all the folks that you want to support this endeavor. And then I think just as important, I talked a little bit about how in Massachusetts, you had to start at the local level, and you don't necessarily have to start at the local level in Connecticut, but that doesn't mean that you can't start at the local level. And in fact, I am encouraging all of my clients to get started now. A lot of the conversations about where are we going to put our cannabis establishment in town, or are we going to even allow cannabis in town? Those conversations are happening right now in Connecticut. And so I do think that, for folks that are interested, you really can run your approach to cannabis on parallel tracks. You can start to seek out, what municipality you might want to try and do business in, start coordinating with your elected officials and municipal officials in that area, and identify how you might be able to proceed while you're working on moving forward at the state level. And so those two sort of key components, if I could break it out in the most simple of terms, is your state licensing work on the one hand, and your local licensing and permitting process on the other hand, and moving those two forward as you consider what you want to do, where you want to be. that's really how you're going to, get yourself ahead of the process here in Connecticut. So I think, just really getting focused and understanding where and how you want to find your way into the cannabis industry is the most important first step.
Thank you for all of that amazing information. When it seems like, from what I'm hearing in the comparison, we probably have a much better process than they did in Massachusetts. And they had not as a strict requirement as from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different process. I think we'll see how everything progresses. I personally am partial to this approach. But I do think that it's very beneficial to the entrepreneurs, that maybe don't have deep pockets, that you can start with the lottery process. I mean, I have plenty of clients who've said, I'm not doing anything until I understand, apart from applying for the lottery, until I understand whether I've won the lottery and I can move forward. And I think that that's definitely beneficial, to not have to, frankly, to not have to sit on renting a piece of real estate for, 6 months while you navigate the state licensing process is really critical to provide an opening to folks in the cannabis space.
Thank you. I've known Jenny Ray for decades. We had an opportunity to work together, and she is certainly one who is a champion for small minority and women-owned businesses. So I must admit that when we found out that she was hired, we were very excited, because we knew that if anybody understood the challenges that small business would have, it was definitely her. So we're very glad that you are part of that team. Can you just bring us up to date on the social equities progress, and give us an overview of how important that council is going to be to this process?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I wish you a lot of luck with this chamber. I think it's going to be a great resource for the folks in Connecticut. So Social Equity Council, I will tell you that I am very, very proud of the council. The council has been working diligently to implement Public Act 21-1, recreational adult use of cannabis. So we have come up with a criteria that folks will use to identify as a social equity applicant. Mm-hmm. We are also going to be looking at those applications and making sure that those folks who are applying for social equity applications are in fact social equity applicants. So I just want to go just a little bit about the criteria. I'm not going to go because our website definitely has all the criteria there, but you must meet an income criteria, you must meet a residency criteria, and you also must meet an ownership and control criteria. So just broadly, the ownership, the social equity applicant must be at least, or applicants must be at least 65% owner of that cannabis venture and have control of that company. You also must have lived in a disproportionately impacted area for the first 9 of your first 18 years, or for the last 5 of the 10 years prior to you making an application. And then your state median household income cannot exceed 300, which is about 74 to 78,000. We did, and I want people to remind folks to continuously look at the website, because as we are building this process, things are changing and we are updating information. We're putting information out there that it makes perfectly good sense to us. And then the public will read it and they'll go, wait, what does that mean? And then they'll come and ask us the question. We'll go, oh yeah, that doesn't come out quite right. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we just did was on the income verification, there was an indication that there was a notarized letter from your employer that was required. That was done in error. That letter notarized from your employer is one of the several documents that you can provide. So everyone who's been trying to get their employer to do a notarized letter, don't do that. It's an option for you, but it is not a mandatory. We also indicated early on that a Connecticut driver's license was required as proof of residency, and it is not a Connecticut driver's license. You do not need to be of Connecticut to make application. So folks should, again, go onto our website and look at the information that we've updated. And we've gotten a lot of questions from people on the ownership documents that need to be provided to show ownership and control. And I want to just let people know that the list is a very lengthy list because there's all types of business structures. So as you are looking at this list, you will only need to provide the information that is relevant to your business structure. So if you are a sole proprietor, that means you are 100% owner of your business, which means you don't have a partnership agreement. So you don't have to upload a partnership agreement because you have no partner. So look at those documents, look at the requirements, check out our website at ct.gov/social equity council for the latest and greatest information on the criteria to qualify as a social equity applicant. Now I will just go into, once you have met the criteria as a social equity applicant, meaning you've met those 3 areas, we will then send your application back to the Department of Consumer Protection for some additional checks, and then you would be issued a provisional license. And that provisional license will give you about 14 months to get your business up and running. So some folks have said, do I need to submit my business documentation with the lottery application? You absolutely do. But do you need to submit your business plan? You do not. You can submit that, and that will be a part of the provisional application and other documentation to show proof of the funds and the fees and all of that other information that the Department of Consumer Protection will be asking for.
Director Clay, could I add one comment to your thoughts there, and that would be one question that I've gotten several times is some people have mistaken the equity joint venture ownership standard with the social equity applicant standard. Some people have come to me and said, well, isn't there something that says I only have to be a 50% owner to apply through the lottery? And I just want to, make it clear for those that might not be aware, the 50-50 threshold versus the 65-35 ownership threshold that Director Clay was referring to earlier relates only to the so-called equity joint venture applicants. And so the equity joint venture applicants are partnerships between existing medical operators and social equity applicants. And in that scenario, it can be a 50-50 ownership breakdown. But if you're applying for the lottery for a new license as a social equity applicant, you have to qualify, as Director Clay mentioned, with the 65-35% ownership breakdown. So just a question that I have heard frequently that I thought bared shedding some light on.
Yeah.
And hopefully Director Clay doesn't think I said anything incorrect there.
No, and then the 50-50 is you're bypassing the lottery altogether.
Right.
Joint venture, the 65-35, you must enter the lottery for that type of license.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, just thought I would add it because I've heard a lot of people checking in and saying, oh, well, what's the difference between this? And so.
Thank you.
Okay, and then just so that I'm clear, you said after, I guess they were selected, they have 14 months to get their business up and running?
Yeah, that's to get your local approvals. That's to get the background check on all of your backers and investors. That's to buy your equipment, to do everything you need to do to submit your social equity plan, to submit your workforce development plan, and to apply for the full license.
Okay.
Yeah, it's essentially, Deb, to get to, to a point where you can commence operations, subject to inspections from the department and final approvals, as necessary from the Social Equity Council. And just to put a fine point on that 14 months is a real deadline. And that's one of the reasons why, we're recommending to our clients to get started now. It can take time to get through the local licensing process. And so, identifying at least where you want to go and, where you want to open your facility and starting to have those conversations with the local elected officials sooner rather than later will put you a step ahead of those that are waiting until they've won the lottery. Because 14 months is, it's a short time frame, depending on how much work you have to do. If there's a lot of construction involved, obviously with COVID, construction timelines have been difficult. So just something to consider about getting started sooner rather than later.
I am assuming that application is probably pretty complicated. Will you be offering any technical assistance workshops to help people through that application?
We actually, and that would be, I'll let Deputy Commissioner Coleman answer that question.
Okay. Thank you.
So we actually had at the last Social Equity Council meeting, our drug control director, Rod Marriott, provided an application walkthrough. That application walkthrough is available on the web, on both websites, ct.gov/cannabis, as well as ct.gov/Social Equity Council. In addition to which, there was a webinar, there will be a webinar that again will walk the public through the application process. And then this, Ginny Ray and her team in the office of the Social Equity Council will be providing office hours to help provide information, because it's a very complex process. I think Rod's presentation had about 70 slides. So there's a lot of information to take in, which is why we wanted to have it on the website so that people could learn at their own pace as well.
Thank you. I'm going to field a couple of questions that we received with their RSVPs. And one of the questions is they want to know if there's going to be, with the selection process of the applications, would there be anybody outside reviewing the applications other than staff?
So the review of the social equity applications is going to be done by a third-party accounting firm.
Okay.
And what that firm is going to be doing is to verify that each applicant that is reviewed meets the social equity criteria. It's like a pass-fail. Either you do or you don't. If you do, you go forward and you're within that lottery number. So let me explain to folks that. So if there are, and I'll give an example, if there are 6 retail licenses available to social equity applicants, the lottery will actually spit out 6 applications first. Those 6 applications will be reviewed to determine whether you are social equity or you're not. If 4 of those applicants in that first release qualify as social equity, those 4 go on to apply for provisional licenses. The next release of lottery applications will only be 2, because we only have 6 licenses. We've identified 4, and now we need 2 more to make up the 6. So each time we identify a social equity applicant, the lottery process will give us the balance of what is due. And then once those applications have been identified, the 6 for, let's say, retail, anyone whose application has not been reviewed will automatically go to the general lottery when that opens. The other thing is, if you do not meet the criteria of a social equity applicant, you will have 5 days to make a decision as to whether you want to enter the general lottery and pay the fee, the increased fee that is not the 50% that the social equity applicants pay.
Can you speak a little bit more about what the fees look like?
Sure, I can do that. So the fees really vary from license to license, and they vary whether you're a social equity applicant or not. So Ginny Ray talked about retailers, and that's because the retailers are the first license type that's opening for the lottery. So for a non-social equity applicant, the lottery fee is $500. The provisional license is $5,000, and then the full license is $25,000. It is a 50% reduced rate for social equity applicants. So for that same license type retailer, it would be $250 for the lottery, $2,500 for provisional, and $12,500 for the full licensure. I did want to just mention, we did talk about 6 retail licenses. There'll be 6 general licenses and 6 social equity licenses for the retailer. The lotteries will be held for each license type once a week until we get through all of the license types, and that information is available on the website too. So I just wanted to let folks know, then this is one lottery. I know there have been some concerns about the small number of licenses received. With the information that was put out, that is just the first lottery round. There will be other lotteries held for all of the license types.
And I would just add that there are also 4 hybrid retailer licenses available in the lottery, which is another form of retail. Obviously, you can apply for both medical and adult use.
You said you can apply for both.
As a hybrid retailer, yes, you can function as both. You're essentially authorized to sell both adult use and medical cannabis. And so 2 of those are going to be reserved for equity applicants. 2 of them are reserved for the general applicant pool. So really there's 16 new retail licenses coming in this first round of the lottery.
In total?
Yeah.
The first lottery round.
Yeah, if you count the hybrid retailers in that category.
And the hybrid retailer lottery will be held on February 24th. That process will open. The application period will open for the lottery for hybrid retailers on February.
Okay.
And I also just want to encourage people to take their time when they're putting in these applications. It is much more important that you have a complete application than to have a speedy application. We extended the application period from 60 days to 90 days to give folks ample opportunity to get involved, to do their research, and to get ready. So we don't want you to wait till the last minute, but you really don't need to try to do this, and be first.
Sure.
There is really no benefit to being first. It's benefit to being accurate.
And
that's especially true.
What's the deadline date to submit it?
It varies by license type, so it's 90 days
Okay.
from the opening date. But I did want to just add that's especially true in terms of taking your time for the backers. You cannot add backers after your license is submitted. So if you have folks that are going, and they also have to complete a license, by the way. So it's not just, the employees have to apply for a license, backers have to apply for a license, but especially for the backers, you want to make sure that you have all of those in place and that they are going to qualify, because you cannot, again, add additional backers once your license application is submitted.
Thank you. And joining us will be Zach. He has some questions as well.
Zach, you're on mute.
Sorry. Hi, everybody. I just have a few questions that were in the chat function and from around. One of those questions for the panel is, will applications be a part of the public record after the lottery period ends?
Yes, so, not the applications themselves. We will provide information on the number of applications that came through, the law is specific around redacting information for our review. So we wouldn't be able to provide information on, specific context of the applications to the public.
Another question that we've had come in is, will there be opportunities for nonprofits or non-cannabis businesses like printing services and other types of services to benefit from partnering with the Connecticut Cannabis Chamber of Commerce?
That sounds like a chamber question to me.
That's a chamber, but that's our question.
Yeah, that's
Adam?
right. And I'd love to answer it. Adam, you can feel free to chime in as well. But I think without a doubt, shameless plug, yes, we would love to have non-plant touching businesses participate in the chamber. Our goal for the chamber, maybe at its most basic level, is to provide a meeting place, if you will, a platform for networking events and everyone in the cannabis industry in Connecticut to come together to talk about how they can collaborate. So we certainly think if you're an architecture firm, an engineering firm, a packaging company, who develops the packaging and labeling for the businesses, et cetera, that you could join and participate, in networking events, et cetera.
Yeah. So not only will we be providing you with up-to-date information surrounding the cannabis industry, just like Attorney Glissman said, we will also be offering different types of networking events where we'll be bringing together those who are interested in getting into industry with people who are already involved in the industry. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call direct. We will be hosting a series of educational workshops. And if there's anything in specific that you're looking to find out, please go to our website. All of our telephone numbers are available. Please give us a call. And we look forward to working with everyone. I just want to let you know also too, on May 21st and the 22nd, at the Earth Convention Center, there's going to be a Cannabis Expo. And this is the type of information that we're going to be getting out to the public so that you are aware of other opportunities that are going on statewide.
Just imagine the opportunity for paper. I mean, Commissioner, how many applications, how many lottery applications you think there'll be? And, so if you're a printer, start advertising, discount printing for those applications, because I have a feeling that audit firm's going to be going through thousands and thousands, probably tens of thousands of pages. So
I would imagine so.
Okay. Well, there's one more question that's kind of in the same vein. It might just be a simple yes or no answer from the Cannabis Chamber panel, but someone asks, I'm a professional accountant. I'm very interested in shifting out of the work space that I'm in right now and would love to be doing the type of work I do for new cannabis businesses. Mm-hmm. Will the chamber be a place that people like me can network with cannabis businesses looking for services like mine?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the priorities of the chamber, is networking events, connecting people, and making sure that, even if you're not a grower or a retailer or something, there's going to be a lot of other ancillary services that they're going to be needing, that you have an opportunity to meet with them and to sell your products and services.
And I'm so glad you raised the issue of financing and banking, quite frankly, because that is a major issue from a policy and advocacy position, not the states to solve, but something that we need to be active on, and a major need in the industry right now, because it's not bankable, and that's a major issue that needs to be addressed. So
yeah, and I'm hoping that this chamber and other entities similar. I know there are some national organizations that are established to support, because as you said, Adam, it's not like you can walk into a Bank of America or a TD Bank and get a loan for this type of business, because it is not federally recognized. There are a few options, although those banks that are participating tend to be a little quiet about it. But the real need in terms of access to capital, particularly for social equity applicants, this goes back to why the social equity component of this legislation is in place in the first place. It is because the war on drugs has systematically impacted these communities on so many different levels, to the point where access to funding is a problem, not just in the cannabis space, but generally. And so this is really around trying to, again, level the playing fields. Will it solve all the problems? Absolutely not. But I think that's also why the law itself has a community reinvestment component that is really separate and apart from cannabis. And so a portion of these fees, we've had conversations around why are the fees so high? Well, that's because a portion of that goes back to the Social Equity and Innovation Fund, which will then see community reinvestment, which we're hoping that the communities themselves will actually inform how those funds get spent.
Yeah, and to all those, listening to this, it really, the commissioner isn't telling the whole story here, but it's really a huge success story for the Department of Consumer Protection and for the Social Equity Council. The provisions that were written into this, hundreds of pages of legislation, are super complicated and complex, and they've set up the system to get all of these things moving, and they've got it moving, and it's moving on time, and hopefully delivering all of the support and help and promise of the legislation. So it's really amazing. It's been a Herculean effort by so many, I'm sure we'll never get thanked in those agencies, but I'll thank the two people who are representative of them here on the call tonight. And certainly I really appreciate all the opportunity that you're creating and how hard you guys have worked to date just to get us to this point where people can start applying and getting.
Thank you, Adam. I mean, we definitely appreciate that. And, it's not like the legislation, the process has not been perfect by any means, but I hope that folks know that we are committed. We recognize that there are some components of the bill that could use some fine tuning, if you will. And we'll be submitting a legislative agenda to the Connecticut General Assembly in that regard. But if folks take nothing else away from this, I hope that they know that Jenny Ray and her team, the Social Equity Council, and I and the Department of Consumer Protection really want to see this benefit those communities who have been most impacted by the war on drugs.
Yeah, that's terrific.
That's excellent. There are a couple more questions if we have a little bit more time. One asks, I run a business that involves delivery and distribution. Will businesses that aren't involved directly in cannabis need any kind of special licensing, or will they be under any kind of regulatory supervision just for working with cannabis businesses?
So no, go ahead, Daniel. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Commissioner, I guess it's hard to answer without knowing all the facts. Certainly anything that touches cannabis, delivery, if you're driving cannabis around, you would require special licensing. If you're just delivering, say, the paper goods, since we were talking about paper before, that wouldn't necessarily qualify for any special licensing from the cannabis perspective. So, you could certainly be an ancillary business that supports a dispensary or a cultivation facility that doesn't require licensing. You could also be an ancillary business that does require licensing. So goes both ways, I guess. Hopefully that wasn't too vague of an answer.
But if you're a business that creates T-shirts or creates swag for one of these businesses, you would not necessarily have to have a license unless you use weed to make those T-shirts, which I don't.
You were trying to infuse the T-shirt.
Right.
No.
Then you would need a license.
Maybe they'll come up with that at some point.
Zach, I got one question to ask that came in from someone who's participating. They were wondering if the names of applicants will become public information at some point, whether they win or lose. I presumably, will that become public information or not?
So full licensure, I would imagine once you have a full license, then you would have to register with the state of Connecticut. So then, and that is public information. Anybody can go to the state of Connecticut and look up any type of business.
Okay, I have a couple of more questions here that I wanted to highlight for a moment, but the answer is almost a little bit explanatory from stuff that had already been said. So one question asks, can someone speak to why the period between lottery application and final licensure doesn't allow applicants to add additional backers? And another question asks, why are the equity regulations only limited to people who grew up in Connecticut rather than maybe somebody who grew up in another country in a very poor, impoverished way? To me, it sounds like these are questions of, how the legislation was set up. And maybe these are things that folks who have these questions should definitely reach out to their state legislators about. There's always an opportunity for another bill to alter the way that these regulations are put forth. And this business is going to be around for a very long time with a lot of opportunity. So definitely, I think, worth reaching out to your legislators and making a relationship there. It can make a lot of good happen.
Yeah, and I would just, reiterate that your comment, Zach, that, with respect to adding backers, that's clearly delineated in the legislation. And then from, growing up in Connecticut or otherwise, the social equity residency requirements are 5 of the last 10 years or 9 of your first 18. So it just is tied to Connecticut, of course, specifically. So at some point you've lived in Connecticut.
And the additional point about the backers is that it could potentially change the ownership structure. And we are determining your social equity status based on the percentage of ownership you have. So if you have 3 backers and you add a 4th, that could change the composition and thereby change your qualification as a social equity act.
Okay, well, we have one more question, and if I can find this gentleman, we are going to let him ask it himself. Yep. I have asked him to join us here. We'll see if he will. I apologize. I guess we don't have that question right now. So that's actually all the questions I have. There was a question about what the price of membership in the chamber will be. We definitely encourage you to reach out to us. You can find our contact form on the website and ask those questions. We'll definitely get back to you.
And there's levels of membership for pretty much every level of participation. So we welcome everyone, and there's an appropriate level for anyone who wants to be a part of this. So,
Ginny, Director Clay, I see you have your hand up. Did you want to? Is there any?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one note that folks, we did a webinar today on financing your cannabis business, so you can find that recording on our website to learn a little bit more about those folks who are looking for funding. And we are also going to be announcing in a couple of weeks, maybe about a month or so, some funding that will be made available for folks who have provisional licenses that are looking for funding to stand up their businesses.
Wonderful.
Terrific.
Excellent.
Seeing that there are no additional questions, just wanted to thank the commissioner for joining us this evening, and also thank Director Clay for all of your work, for all of the work that you're going to be doing, all the questions and additional forums, and help that you're going to give to folks looking to enter and participate in this new industry in our state. We are so thankful for everyone who joined tonight, whether you're a member of the media, or I see some legislators joined us, and lawmakers joined us this evening from across the state, or people who are looking to enter the industry. You're all welcome, and please reach out to us via email. Again, the email address is info@ctcannabischamber.org, or check out our website. And please follow us and stay in touch with us. And we've lots more to come, lots more training, events, networking opportunities, and resources. So we hope you'll join. And Dan, Deborah, did I miss anything?
No, you did a great job.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And thanks again to everyone for joining.
One thing I would like to add, Adam, is that you don't have to be a Connecticut resident to join the chamber. We're going nationwide. We take nationwide membership.
Oh, that's a good point. Thank you, Deborah. All right. Well, again, Commissioner and Director, thank you so much. Audience, participants, thank you for joining, and we'll see you soon. Thank you again.